Good morning on this Sunday, June 23rd. Here's a look at our top stories on the Georgia gang. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms vents her frustrations to members of the Atlanta Press Club. Georgia sets its date for the presidential primary. Will the new voting machines be ready? And they're posing as construction workers, but they're really police officers going after those texting and driving. Alexis, Phil, and Theron are all here. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia gang starts now.
Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms puts it to the media, telling members of the Atlanta Press Club they focus too much on the negative news and not enough on the positive. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms was very candid in her address to the Atlanta Press Club this week, telling members she'll be happy when the investigation into corruption at City Hall is over. Corruption involving members of former Mayor Kasim Reed's administration. She told the audience, quote, "I don't run away from having a close friendship for decades with Mayor Reed, but I'm my own person. Despite all I did to show I was my own person, I wasn't given credit for being my own person." She did receive the endorsement of the former mayor, but vowed to have a more transparent and open government. She accused the media on focusing too much on the scandal and not enough on the positive news coming out of the city. Quote, "This should not be the narrative of Atlanta. The narrative has to be more than we're a city of corrupt people with intent to do wrong. We cannot turn the city into a spectacle." And Theron, clearly you could sense the frustration in the mayor's comments, but it's not the media making a spectacle of the city. It's the folks who have been convicted of crimes making a spectacle of the city. So why is she putting the blame to the media?
Well, the one thing that I want to start by saying is I want to commend the Atlanta Press Club for putting this event on. I was actually there for the entire luncheon. And quite frankly, Lori, you've been there. I'm sure Phil and Lexus in your many days of journalism have been to this event. It's a place where journalists come and hear from the mayor, but it's always sort of a little bit of bantering going on. It's a little friendly bantering. And the thing that was interesting, Lori, is that the mayor's comments, which was not in the clip, she started off by thanking the media for their role. She said, "I'm a person who received a journalistic degree from FAMU, and I respect journalists doing their jobs." But what she really specifically said, Lori, is while I understand the media has a job to do, she said, "I do want you to be fair." And she really kind of went down a long litany of positive things that she's done at the city that is not quite getting the same coverage as some of the negative things. Now, to respond,
but that's the nature of the news business.
That is true.
Right? I mean, the news does not cover positive things because they don't show in the ratings. If they did, everybody would do positive news. She did get accolades for the Super Bowl and some of the other things that have happened. So it's not like she hasn't gotten her fair share of positive news.
But go back to what I said. This is the press club event, right? So, every member of every journalist who comes to an event is there really to hear what kind of joke or what kind of banter that the mayor is going to say. But the one thing I think that she did a very good job of, Lori, is that she said, "Look, I've had a long relationship, decades relationships with former Mayor Kasim Reed, but I am not him." She stressed how she is independent, how she's basically spent her entire term showing her independence. And then the last thing that I thought was very interesting is that she also challenged the media to, again, hey, you can attack me. I ran for this job. I know that comes along with a job. But when you start going after members of my staff, and then we get to a point where we have people rolling off voluntary roles or boards because of the amount of scrutiny that you're going to receive, that was something.
We're going to get to that.
Yeah, that was something that I thought that she did very adequately.
Phil is chomping at the bit.
Well, these weren't attacks. These are reporting on an ongoing federal corruption probe.
Right.
So her use of the language is very deceiving. And I do agree with Lori. I said, I think there's been fairness. If I look back, she should have broken cleanly with the previous Mayor Kasim Reed earlier. She kept on some of these people that have been targeted by the corruption probe. She should have gotten rid of them. She should have made the standard. Even you admitted that she was too late as the months went by in terms of dealing with the corruption that was going on. And yes, a lot of it was going on in the Reed administration. But that's her fault. And I do agree with Lori. I mean, planes land safely every day at Hartsfield-Jackson, but we don't report on that. So she's unfairly attacking a media that is trying to do its job.
It was not an attack. It was a friendly...
You just used the word attack that she used.
No. I didn't say that the mayor attacked the media at all. What I'm saying to you is at a time where, Phil, we got a president of the United States who basically makes it a daily task to attack the media.
Well, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about a mayor who's trying to deal with a corruption probe, and you're trying to deflect this.
Were you there? I was there. Okay. What I'm telling you
I don't have to be
is,
there to know what was said.
But you're running your talking points today to try to, bruise this mayor. I want to be fair. She chose a venue where journalists was there to basically let her speak about the good things that's going on in the city, and she did that. But all she did, she said, I just asked for you guys to be fair in your reporting.
So does she call reporters in to talk to them on a weekly basis? I mean, this is what some politicians that I've covered years and years. I mean, going back to Casey Cagle when he was lieutenant governor, used to call us in on a weekly basis. Hey, here's what's going on. Here's what's coming up. Does she have that kind of relationship, or does she have somebody advising her on that kind of relationship so it doesn't become adversarial?
Yeah,
Alexis, you are in the media.
Right, and I would say that she should heed that advice, and that's something that Andy Young has always done from the beginning of his political career, which was a carryover from the civil rights movement. He used to go in and talk to city officials and everybody else before they did a demonstration. Say, this is what we're going to do, and here's what's going to happen. And so people would know what's going on. So I think it would be good for the mayor to have that kind of relationship with the media, where she not only invites them in, but she goes to see them as well.
And Theron, you made mention that Mayor Bottoms also talked about the people who volunteer for the city.
Right.
Now, this week, Attorney Joe Whitley resigned from the task force for the promotion of trust, and I want to get that correct, because his firm receives millions of dollars from the city for helping the city respond to federal subpoenas and requests from the news media. Phil, is this a potential conflict of interest? The fox guarding the hen house? Because the mayor didn't think really that it was.
Well, it's a shame. Here's a case of where we should have had some vetting. I mean, here's a panel that's supposed to be for transparency and ethics, and then that undermined transparency and ethics. And Joe Whitley, who was a former U.S. attorney and a prominent attorney in Atlanta, he should have known better too, because he does represent the Baker Donaldson firm. That firm did business with the city, so he, to your point, he'd be overseeing what was going on with his own firm. So why would you want to put someone in that position, or why would he want to be put in that position? And then, of course, you had Leah Sears, who was on the panel too, who's then the spotlight goes on to her. So the whole thing was a nightmare for the mayor. This could have been stopped if she was getting some advice and counsel, to your point, beforehand.
So for our viewers, let's talk about how this whole public trust task force even came about. I got sort of double teamed on when I said that this was the most transparent mayor ever. This mayor created this public trust task force, so let's not leave that out. So this is something that she created. This was her creation. Not only did she create it, she made sure that every council member and councilor had a representative on the task force. The second thing is this: I'm really kind of appalled that Phil would actually not come to the defense of Joe Whitley. Let's talk about this amazing attorney. This is an attorney who has served 3 Republican presidents. Reagan, Daddy Bush, and W, right, has been an outstanding leader. We're talking about Leah Ward Sears, who's not only a justice for the Supreme Court of Georgia, but who was once considered to be a U.S. Supreme Court justice, right? And the last thing is these people were properly vetted. And the people who I think are behind this attack, who I think are really trying to disrupt this whole process, are people who knew that these folks were being considered. And so what I want to say—
So an attorney with Baker Donaldson is going to be overseeing the Baker Donaldson billings?
I just think, Theron, anybody with any business or anybody's firm with city business should not be on this task force.
Well, you know what? Some of the people we know, Lori, that you work with, that if that's the case, then a whole lot of people are going to stop doing a lot of good for the city of Atlanta.
On the task force?
But on an oversight. This is an oversight
committee. This is much different. This is ethics, transparency.
But you put the best people on the committee. We're talking about a guy who's a U.S. district attorney. We're talking about a justice for the Supreme Court.
We know that, but you're missing the point.
No.
Lori's point is business is being done with the city with someone that's overseeing the business.
But this is what I want to tell you guys, because I did talk to some sources. Everyone who's on this public task force, their resumes, their bios, their qualification, they didn't hide that these firms are doing business with the city or representing different entities that work with the city. They didn't hide it. But now what's going on is that you have a particular member of this task force who's co-chairing it, who I think is being led by a particular council member who wants to disrupt this task force. And again, this is the mayor's task force. It was thoroughly vetted. She put forth all of these candidates before these people, and they voted on them, and they put them on the task force.
We got to wrap up.
Let's say you're right, though, for a second. Why would you put yourself in that position position where you know the media is going to question
Well,
you.
this is what I would tell you. You know why? I think Mr. Wheatley, who to be commended, really wanted to basically give back to the city. And it was a shame that he was attacked the way he was attacked. He wrote a very heartfelt letter to the mayor saying he had to resign because he was afraid of the scrutiny for people like you and others that will give him for trying to volunteer.
He put himself in that
All
position.
right, we're going to wrap up. I'm getting the hard wrap on this one. Lots more to come. And coming up, Georgia has a date for its presidential primary. What it can mean for Democratic candidates. Straight ahead.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger has set the date for Georgia's presidential primary on March 24th. Early voting set to begin March 2nd. That's about 9 months away. Phil, has the state even ordered the new voting machines? I mean, are we going to be ready?
We don't have a vendor for the new voting machines.
Much
Breaking news. Yeah.
Much less
And
order.
that's part of the problem that you're underscoring. What's going to happen is obviously the Secretary of State is going to have to pick a vendor on one of those touch screen that we've talked about on the gang for weeks and weeks. We don't have to go into that. But I think it's very interesting to see that March 24th date. And actually, I think that helps the Democrats. I think it probably gives more relevance to the state of Georgia in that Democratic presidential primary as opposed to the Super Tuesday primary, which is earlier that month.
Especially since they added in California and another state.
That's what I was going to ask you.
On
Will
Super Tuesday.
Will Georgia play a big role? Because we always have this debate.
It could possibly play the deciding role at this point because of the Super Tuesday is a big, gathering of Texas, California, and all the other states, and maybe South Carolina too. So Georgia could be the tiebreaker.
All right, we're going to stick with voting because plaintiffs in one of the federal lawsuits that accuse Georgia of voter suppression want to go a step further with their court action. They want to bring Georgia back under the Voting Rights Act. And Theron, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act in 2013, and that required pre-clearance. Georgia, of course, was under that. Is it a good idea for Georgia to have federal approval before it makes any changes to its voting?
Well, I think what I'm very proud of is that we're at least having a conversation. I mean, we know that Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which I think, Section 2, were the center part of that bipartisan Voting Rights Act that was passed by the federal government. But at a time, in 1965, right? And so, for someone who's actually worked for Congressman John Lewis and know how many people like him and others really fought so hard to get this passed, I do think it's the right thing to really look at something that we need to make sure that people, again, feel that their votes are secure and everything is going fast. Now, the other thing is that I do think that with this pending ongoing litigation with this, voter irregularities and problems that we saw in the election, it is very slippery slope because when you start bringing up the Voting Rights Act, it definitely fires up a Republican base who probably feels that we don't necessarily need that. But it also fires up a Democratic base, a more seasoned Democratic base.
Well, no Republican has said we don't need the Voting Rights Act. Why would you say something that inflammatory?
Because it's been gutted.
Well, that's not true. You had one section.
And ever since
you had one section. This is not.
More
Can I finish my thought?
No, but
there's one section.
Let Phil finish.
There is one section, as you well know, that was revised because this is not the 1960s anymore. We don't have to go hat in hand to some bureaucrat in the Justice Department just to move a polling place from one block to another. It was very minor. And what this whole myth of voter suppression is all about is the fact that we've had more people under Secretary of State and now Governor Brian Kemp voting, and so I think that's a red herring.
So let me ask you a question, Phil. Isn't it not true, to Alexis' point, that there were Republicans in Georgia, because this is the Georgia gang, so we're going to bring it home, that led the effort to dilute the Voting Rights Act? Basically, former state representatives who went on to be members of Congress. We got former state senators in DeKalb County, one of whom is a big fan of the show, who basically tried to limit the polling locations for early voting. They spoke out against the Voting Rights Act. Congressman John Lewis.
The word dilution is very misleading.
Oh, my God.
We just wanted, as the South and many other areas of the country, we wanted to be equal to the rest of the country. It's not the 1960s.
But isn't it true that it was a Republican? Isn't it true that it was a Republican-led effort, to Alexis' point, to gut the Voting Rights Act, particularly Section 5?
Actually, I think that Roy Barnes and some of his people, the last Democratic governor, wanted. Well, it's bipartisan. That is the answer. Both parties.
Legislation and policy changes that have continued to repress the black vote.
You have more people voting in Georgia, including minorities, than ever before.
I want to move on because I want to get to one more City of Atlanta development. And obviously, obviously there's a lot more debate on that topic. The city of Atlanta, the state's judicial watchdog, has accused Atlanta Municipal Court Judge Tierney Gundy of being late and absent from her job and then trying to cover it up. Now, the AJC reports that she had a personal relationship with former Mayor Reed and that he appointed her to the bench. Now, there's a lot here, Phil. The AJC also reporting that Atlanta taxpayers funded some of her defense.
Well, this is a report by an investigative body called the Judicial Qualifications Commission, and they are stepping up their scrutiny of bad judges. In fact, over the last 10 years or so, I think dozens of judges have been forced out or removed by this investigative body. I'm glad to see this body resurrected. I saw the JQC charges against this Judge Gundy. It's disgraceful, and I'm predicting that she'll be out.
Theron?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know what I'm going to say. It's an ongoing investigation, but it's not good. I think that Judge Gundy are taking these allegations very seriously. But let me just say this whole thing about a personal relationship, guys, come on, we got to get to a point where there's nothing wrong with an elected official who had a prior existing friendship with someone before they became mayor or dog catcher or coroner or sheriff of a county. Just because you have a personal relationship with someone does not exclude you for basically appointing someone if they're a qualified position.
That may be true, but there are plenty of other charges.
And we know this, just to be fair, it happens on both sides. Democrats do it and Republicans do it as well.
I'm going to leave it at that because the Marietta Police Department is getting creative when it comes to cracking down on folks who text and drive. We'll discuss next.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
Marietta police officers wrote 170 citations catching folks texting while driving or just holding their phone on their laps, which is against the law. But here's the catch. They were dressed up as construction workers. Now, Alexis, it is deceiving, but it worked. Officers going undercover in many instances. Good idea?
Well, perhaps, yeah. I mean, if it saves people's lives in accidents, that's a good idea. I think people should not be texting and talking on the phone while they're driving. It's very distracting.
Phil, I think we're all going to be a little leary now, the construction workers.
Well, that's right. I'm going to agree with Alexis. It's called undercover police work.
Well, to Alexis' point, it is definitely unsafe. And look, I'll admit, I'm a guy who legitimately has to say to myself every time I'm in my vehicle that text can wait. Or I'll just make sure that I have a feature on my car that I can press and say, hey, I'll call you back. And so I want to commend the police officers for doing that and eliminating the people who are texting and driving.
Well, moving on, remember Gwinnett County Commissioner Tommy Hunter? He made headlines for calling Congressman John Lewis, quote, a racist pig. Well, 2 years after making those comments, among others, and being publicly reprimanded, Hunter is suing for $5 million, saying that punishment violated his right to free speech. Phil, does he have a case?
Well, he did exercise his right to free speech, even though it might have been disgusting and reprehensible and people wouldn't like it. I don't know if the bar is high enough legally for him to say that his free speech rights were violated. On the other hand, people had their free speech rights saying he was wrong and should be reprimanded. So I don't think it's libel.
$5 million, Theron?
It's hefty. That's a hefty ask, and you can't blame the commissioner for wanting to shoot for the stars as far as the settlement. But I was going to make Commissioner Hunter my loser, so I'll just do it now. I think that this is distractive to basically, whine about a Facebook post which he made, and really, not only did he make the Facebook post, but when he was called out about it, really didn't really show a lot of remorse. And it's Congressman John Lewis. No one should be called a racist pig. But let's also talk about how the congressman handled it. I mean, he handled it with grace. He didn't go after Commissioner Hunter and say that he was a racist. Commissioner Hunter attacked Congressman Lewis and said that he was a racist. And so I do think that this is disruptive, and I think it's a distraction to the county at a time where they're trying to do good government for the people that they serve.
And to me, that's a new definition of reverse racism, which is
Phil used that term.
It's a nonsense definition anyway, but I mean, he's going to be the victim now.
Well, everyone can be hateful toward another race, regardless of their race. I think we all would agree on that. But I do think that it's a lesson to all public officials. You can disagree, and you can disagree vigorously, but to engage in this hyperbole, this vicious, I think it's a lesson for everybody.
But Phil, I think this is an opportunity for you to really, denounce this type of racism that was put in. No, but to really But to go further and say that everyone needs to learn, Commissioner Hunter did something that was disgraceful for this state. It embarrassed a county at that time that was on the move, becoming more of a progressive county. And now, to Alexis' point, to come back and sort of say that I'm the victim and I want to go sue for $5 million.
Yeah,
I will hope that he's
I
your
just said I don't think the bar. I don't think the bar is there. I called it disgusting and reprehensible. So you can get on your beating your drum here, but this happens regardless of race or party. People say stupid things, and they need to be called out on it.
Well, let's move on to Clayton County. Mitzi Bickers, who is facing a 12-count indictment in the Atlanta City Hall corruption probe, has a new job title in the Clayton County Sheriff's Department. She was promoted to chief chaplain. Theron, she's innocent until proven guilty, but critics are really questioning this promotion.
Well, I would assume that Missy Bickers has got to figure out, what she wants to do professionally with her life. I think when someone is investigated and is indicted or going an ongoing investigation that has been lasting for so long, they have to work and they have to basically put food on the table for their families. And I think that for her to get the promotion, I'm sure that it was duly rewarded to her. She's been working there for a while. So look, I think that it shows that people, while on the investigation, can continue to live their day lives. And I think that she comes to work every day, and if she deserves the promotion, I do think it was warranted.
Well, as a so-called chaplain, she better be praying that she doesn't go to jail, because the sheriff shouldn't have promoted someone that's under this cloud. She's a target in a federal corruption investigation. She's working for a police department, a sheriff's department, taxpayers' money. If you're going to keep her there, she shouldn't have been promoted.
Well, she's a pastor of her own church, and her congregation supports her as well. And I think that, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And the thing is, I don't think the charge didn't say she did anything wrong. I mean, she just kind of took the money and didn't do the service, or it wasn't a bribe. So
that
she
is
just
wrong, but
I mean,
it's a sin.
Well,
it may be, but we're all sinners.
We're
right?
going to come back with winners and losers.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
Well, I want to go first because we want to congratulate Theron for his 2-year anniversary of Paramount Consulting. What a star-studded political event last night on Thursday night. Don't know how many people who can get the Georgia governor, the Speaker of the House, the Atlanta mayor, and DeKalb CEO all in one room smiling. Along, of course, with Ambassador Andrew Young. There's nobody else, I think, except Theron.
Well,
so congratulations.
That was a wonderful event, and I was glad to be there.
Appreciate it. Thank
Alexis.
All right, I want to add my congratulations and make Theron my winner of the week as well. Also, Angel Cabrera is the new president of Georgia Tech, and he came from George Mason University, so I want to congratulate him on that appointment. And who else do I want to talk about?
Can we move on to Phil? We'll come back.
Come back. Go ahead. Oh.
I got a couple here. The U.S. News and World Report did a study of the best children's hospitals in the United States, and guess who was almost at the top of the list? Our own Children's Hospital of Atlanta.
Nice.
So they deserve a big shout out. I've got a loser. The AJC, I thought used to be an objective paper. Last Monday, the President of the United States announced his re-election. Gosh, it's not on the front page of the Tuesday paper. It's not even in the first section of this Tuesday paper. So much, if you wanted to know about the liberal bias of this newspaper, there's evidence A right there. That is shameful. I don't care if it's a Democrat president, Republican president, put it on the front page. Go ahead, Alexis.
If it's a dishonest president, put it on the front page.
Put it on the front page no matter what.
I'm shocked that Phil Ken is attacking the media.
It comes from both sides, Republican and Democrat.
Who would have thunk it? Can I go?
Yes.
Oh, good. My first winner is going to be Amol Naik. Amol is the Atlanta Chief Resilience Officer who's resigning this week to basically go take care of his mother who's ill. So I want to make him a winner. And then also I want to give a big shout out to Woods Chapel Barbecue. This is a new barbecue place that just opened up in Summerhill. And so they are going to do a lot of great things there, and that area is just booming. And I want to make sure I go over there and get some good barbecue. And then lastly, I want to make Tommy Hunter my loser. I thought that it was a distraction to Gwinnett County, a county that's trying to do good things for their constituency. And then to Alexis's point, to now come out and try to sue, act like you're the victim when you made a decision to call a civil rights icon a racist pig. So I definitely want to make him my loser this week.
All right, and I've got quite a few too. The U.S. women's soccer team for yet another shut out big winners this week. And Kelly O'Hara, who is a former Concord player, Dana Fowles' daughter plays at Concord, as well as my daughter. So big soccer moms here at Fox 5. And also Bernie Marcus on turning 90. The philanthropist and former Home Depot co-founder was honored with a really big celebration that we didn't mention, but it was at the Georgia Aquarium, which of course he gifted to the city of Atlanta. His friends raised $117 million in his honor to give to charity. He's just a remarkable man. Yeah. Also this week, we remember Michael Torpy today, the 20-year-old son of AJC reporter Bill Torpy. Michael lost his 2-year battle with cancer. Bill, we're thinking of you. We're praying for you and your family. He has a beautiful tribute to his son on the AJC website, so you'll want to look out for that one. Well, that's it for this week. We'll see you next time on The Georgia Gang.
Okay, good job.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.